Hey, this is Kahja Elliott, Bronx born and raised, ATL made, Bay Area becoming, and this is the As Told By podcast. All right, we're back with this week's episode of the As Told By podcast. This is Kahja Elliott, host of the As Told By podcast, and today we're about to get into that shmoney, that Skrilla, that bread, because this episode is all about personal finances. So we know in podcasting world, finances and investing and entrepreneurship and all those things have become very, very popular. But before you master business money and investment money, a lot of times you haven't mastered your own personal finances. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. And I went scratching through my Instagram, Rolodex of people, and I found an expert to come talk to us today. Hey, expert.
Hello there.
Okay, so that is Qiana Davis, Administrative Services Director and Fiscal Officer for Marin County Public Works. Qiana has 20 plus years of a career in finance. She holds licensure in insurance and annuities, and she's super passionate about financial education, empowering communities, and building wealth through a strong foundation. She's a member of the Smart Money Alliance, Urban Financial Services, and Project 1000 mission, and is committed to building others up in the area of personal finance. So thank you for coming to the As Told By podcast.
Thank you for the invite. I'm excited.
Okay, look, we're hyped because look, I put out a call on my stories like, if you have questions about personal finance, and people did send questions. So they did.
Let's do it.
And I noticed the questions that I got, I had those questions too. So I'm like, okay, I'm looking forward to this.
All right. Well, I'm rubbing my hands together.
All right. So let's start. When you came in and we were kind of chatting it up, I didn't realize you are a San Francisco native, which is a unicorn, as you called it.
Yes, indeed. Born and raised in San Francisco, California.
And still there.
And I am still there.
Don't y'all give away the house.
Hello. That's a whole nother conversation right there.
Yeah.
We holding on.
Yet holding on and keep it. So, I always, when you run into people who are good with money, I always wonder what was their money story. So what was your relationship to money growing up? Were you always a financially savvy person, or did you have to learn how to have a relationship with money?
All right. Those are great questions, and I'm glad you asked, and I'll try not to tell my entire life story.
Go
but
ahead, tell it.
Here's where my relationship with money began. So I can say that my earliest memories of money would be with my grandfather and grandmother and her sisters giving me quarters for church. So I can put it in an envelope for offering. Mm-hmm. And so I knew the importance of having money at that age. But where I really began to understand money was from my mother. So I will answer one of your other questions. Was I always a financially savvy person? Absolutely, positively not. However, I did understand that perks and benefits came with money. So I knew that money was important. I knew that money could get me things, just small things as simple as the candy house. I don't think they have those anymore,
No.
But we used to have them in San Francisco. So I knew that this was something that I would exchange to get something that I wanted. And so I understood that I needed to save money, but I also was spending the money. So that was my earliest relationship with money. I started to talk about my mother. So both of my parents, my biological parents, are divorced. But my mother was really good when it came to discipline and when it came to money. My lovely father, however, he was YOLO before YOLO.
Before YOLO was a thing?
Before YOLO was a thing, right? And that says a lot about marriage, okay? Mm-hmm. When you're not on the same page. But my mother was very disciplined, and she would save her money. She would take us to where her money was at a very young age, me and my brother. Mm-hmm. She would make me sit in the bank and to watch her bank transaction. And she would say to me at a very early age, I want you to pay attention to what I'm doing because one day it will be you. And so I understood that the bank provided you with money. Now, I didn't quite understand concept that you had to put money in the bank, right? I just knew this was the place where the money was. And so I would watch her. She would save. She was a saver. She would invite me and my brother, whether we wanted to go or not, to the mailbox. And me and my brother tease her about this to this day. We think that, we were like, was that child abuse? She would tell us to go get the bills, not the mail.
The bills.
Go get the bills. I don't know if anybody understands what that is, right? Go get the bills, which meant go to the mailbox. And so we would bring her up the bills. And we would sit in the middle of our living room floor. And she would spread the bills out. And she would tell me and my brother to take a turn and open the bills. Now, I was 5, okay?
So you're sitting here with bills. And you're like, what is this?
We're sitting here with the bills. Mm-hmm. And so we would open up the bills. Back then you had letter openers. We did the letter opener thing. We opened up the bills. She's like, who is it? How much is it? When is it due? And so we would read this out to her. Now, what that taught me at a very young age was that life was not free. Mm. And what it also showed me was that my mother was very concerned about her money, where she spent it, and how she spent it, who was getting it. And she would also make us prioritize which bills would me and my brother pay first. Now, at 5 years old, you really don't have a concept of what's really going on. It's like this just, what is this, right? Why are we do this all the time? Like, stop it. Mm-hmm. But what it taught me was that money moves. It is not to be stagnant. It is to be used, and you use it for what it is that you need. And so those are my very early memories of money. Now, as I get older, I get pregnant, I get married, none of those things really stuck with me. What did stick with me was credit cards. As soon as I hopped out of high school, right, I got credit cards. Mm-hmm. So I know about the credit card debt.
Yeah, I know about that too. We're going to get into that.
We're going to get into that, mm-hmm. and not understand how credit cards work. But credit cards, then being a mom, being a wife, trying to run a household, but without, really understanding finances. Mm-hmm. And so me and my husband both, we've had to move back home with our lovely children twice because I wasn't implementing what I saw.
Okay.
What I did was I copied what my father did. That was YOLO, right? Okay. Meaning as soon as I get it, I'm going to go ahead and spend it. Because I only live once, and I'll never get it again.
Okay.
Okay. So I went through, and I'm just walking y'all kind of through my process here. Uh-huh. And so as we're going through our finances, our financial ups and downs, taxes hit. Now, taxes, y'all. I got so angry with taxes. Not really understand. I knew we were going to go get our taxes done. Ideally, we get money back. But this time, they said we owed.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Because we're going to get into owed taxes.
Yes.
As well.
Okay.
That came up organically when we were talking earlier today of taxes.
It's a problem.
So that's definitely a topic. But what I think is so interesting about what you shared is that you come out of a family environment where you have the two extremes.
Yes.
Spend it all, save it all, right? Be super responsible with it. Go have a good time with it, right? And then how you kind of found yourself at different stages of that in different stages of your life. And so when you think about budgeting, that can be a hard concept for people to grasp depending on where you are in regard to it. So for me, as a person so let me take a step back. We talked about credit cards. I remember back when I was in undergrad, and this was when I was in community college in downtown Brooklyn. And this was when they would set up tables outside of colleges for you to apply for a credit card on the spot. Yes. And the enticement would be like T-shirts, candy, gift cards, with little nominal amounts. And you would sign up. And remember on TV, like somebody would drop down that scroll and all them credit cards would be in it?
Yes.
I had every credit card known to man. And I would be down in Fulton Mall in Brooklyn on my break in between classes buying, like I bought a whole living in my mom's house. I bought a whole new bedroom set. I had all kind of clothes, shoes. Like, I've ran those credit cards to the hilt, and I ended up filing bankruptcy. I want to say it was 1998, maybe 97 or 98. So my introduction into getting my hands on my own money and budgets went terribly well. But I say that to say, you know, as a person who now has worked their way out of hard times.
Yes.
You know, I often have this feeling, and I know a lot of other people do, of deservedness, or like sweat equity and the earned right to have what I want, because thankfully, you know, I'm in a career, I can cover my baseline comfortably. So I'm like, okay, well, what's left is what's left. So how do you advise people who are really connected, people like me, who are really connected to enjoying their discretionary income, to prioritize budgeting?
Okay, so I'm you know what? There was something going on. Something was in the waters in the 1990s, y'all. And I just happened to be there because I was in the same boat as you're saying in college. Spin the wheel, win a t-shirt. Oh my gosh, I have never been appreciated. And so this is the part about finances where money is very emotional. And it was making me feel good until it was time to
hit that bill.
Yeah, to pay.
Yeah.
Right. So to get back to your question, what I did learn from my mother, and from understanding that now my credit cards are maxed out and now I can't get anything, was that I had to have a budget. And so when we talk about budget, right, the B word.
That's what I call it, the B word. I just refer to it as the B word.
Right.
Yes.
So what I had to do, so budgeting is key. Okay, I know a lot of people are like, it's all in my head.
Look, I'm coughing, y'all.
It's all in my mind, right? I know what I got to pay when I got to pay it, and there are a lot of people out there that are like that. However, it is very important that we write things down, because what it does is it reinforces, right? Not that it's just sitting here in your mind, but now you are looking at it. You have written this thing down. So it's supposed to be like a reinforcement, right? Same with your goals, right? We'll talk about maybe financial goals later. But with budgeting, you have to tell your money where to go and what to do. Period. So you have to have a budget. Where is all of your money going? Because one thing we know is that you're working. You're spending a lot of time, which is why you want to definitely gift yourself with things. And there's nothing wrong with that. This is when I tell people all the time, I don't know if anyone's grown up with this, and I didn't. I had to learn it the hard way. How important it is to pay yourself first.
Okay. Pay yourself?
Pay yourself.
Because I subscribe to that. But that doesn't, I get the feeling that doesn't mean cover your baseline and then keep the rest for yourself.
No, that's not what that means. So when we pay ourselves first, some people function on rule-based budgeting, or maybe you don't, right? Because I've been there too. But rule-based budgeting tells us that you can take, you may have heard of the 80-20 rule, the 50-30-20 rule, the 90-10 rule, or even zero-based budgeting. But what's important is that if at the minimum, if you're not giving yourself 10% of what it is that you've made, or 20% of what it is that you've made, then what are we doing? And with that 10% and that 20% is what you decide that you're going to do for yourself, whether that's you going to get your nails done or your hair done. But let it be a portion of that we're saving, because that money has got to work for you later.
Got it. Okay. And I remember once my career was taking off and I started to really make financial gains, setting up like alternate accounts where the money just came, like a section of direct deposit just went over there. So I'm like, okay, let me automate this savings, and let me do things like get a Roth IRA and all the things that we're going to get into, to just try to create safeguards for myself, so that I was not faced with this big pool of money to then be trying to siphon off on my own.
Right.
Budgeting is tricky.
Budgeting is tricky. And a lot of my clients and people that I work with, one thing I always tell them is that, hey, come to me. Let me hold your hand. You sit there, I'll sit here.
Walk you through this thing.
And just let's come together, right? And that's the thing about financial coaching. It's like we're on the court together. Okay? It's like, I've got the playbook, right? You the player on the floor, right? Hello, Golden State Warriors. Come on through, right? But I've got the playbook. And so let me help you with one, being accountable, right? And it's not just left on you, but understanding where our money is. What is your monthly household expenses? And those expenses tend to be your more variable expenses. How much are you spending on groceries versus money that you're spending just eating out, right? And so when we put those things together, right, I have a list, right? And I'm just saying, hey, let's talk about it. Let's look at it. Some clients, I have to say, you know what? Go ahead and print out your bank statement. And they like, oh, Lord, she all in my
moment of truth.
Right, she all in my business. But print it out so that we can see where your money really is going. You have to know. It's a money map in the end. How much of your income, your active income, right? Because we know there's different types of income. How much of your active income is going to a liability only? How much of it is going to purposeful saving, not just so it can sit? How much of your income is going to secured debt versus unsecured debt?
Okay.
So you got to do it, but you can make it simple. It does not have to be something hard.
I just envision like people sitting down with this big spreadsheet but it doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't have to be that way, although my shoulders raised because I get it. I love Excel. If this world ever told me I had no Excel, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. But yes, it doesn't have to be an elaborate spreadsheet. Oftentimes your bank account or your bank statements will tell you exactly what you really need as far as budgeting.
Okay.
It's as simple as food, simple as transportation. It could be as simple as household expenses, right? Those are just some of the basics. Then here's my secured debt. Well, what's the secured debt? The secured debt is the debt that's backed up, right, with collateral. And then we've got those ugly things called unsecured debt, where they're not backed up, where you just sign your name on a dotted line, give us your social security number, date of birth, and voila, you have been granted with credit, right? Yeah. So there's the unsecured debt. You can just put buckets just like so, right? And then decide, how much money am I going to give to what?
Organize.
Yes.
Got to be organized. Okay, so then once you organize, let's assume you have a budget and you have everything allocated, and then you start thinking about, how do I want to secure what I have? So now I'm going to pivot, right, to something that I feel like it comes up a lot.
Okay.
I think it's definitely apropos within the Black community and probably many other communities as well, but I'm just speaking to what I know. Life insurance. Right. So we've all seen folks, which this is a new thing. I would see people like in the intersection with a sign, you know, with the person's picture and the name and date of the decedent and a Venmo or a Cash App. And I do think to some degree, I believe that's a scam. But when I saw it the first few times, I'm like, oh, my God, could you imagine somebody in your family has passed and this is what your best option is to collect money for final expenses? So, it's just essentially panhandling. I was just so shocked by that. But let's talk about, because it took me a while to understand what the difference is. The difference between term life insurance, whole life insurance, which one you think is better. And then the last question I'm going to add on, which I think is so interesting, I can't wait to hear your take on this. Do people who do not have financial dependence need life insurance?
Starting up, okay. This is good. So my shoulders are going up again, right?
Okay, we ready.
Right. So I'll let you know, I'm a life insurance agent.
Okay. Then.
Okay. So, insurance is my thing.
Okay.
So there is an
informed opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So this is the thing about life insurance. Life insurance is something that we all need. We have to have it. We have to have it. And of course, there's a mindset that goes with this. The thing about term life, I don't ever say it's bad. I have term life insurance. But what I teach people before we even get insurance, you got to have a basic understanding. And so I go through an education first. Term life insurance is meant for moments in time. It's specific. So it's about, how do you use the term life, right? Whether it's a 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20, 25, 30-year term. There's a purpose for it. For example, we do a mortgage protection seminar every Monday, 6 o'clock or 6:30 p.m. And it's on Zoom. And what we tell people is those who own homes that still have mortgages, you need mortgage protection life insurance, which is a term policy. Because a home is something that is your biggest expense most of the time. And so if you are banking on that home being your asset or added as an asset, you've got to protect it. So if something happened to you, what happens to the home? So term life is good for that. Term life is also good for student loan debt. I know we're not going to talk about that today, right? But let's say you have some student loan debt, and especially for those who are married. This is where my tax folks come in. So this is great because this is a story. Okay. So, and my client, she's like, please tell everybody about this because I know I'm not the only one. She's got the student loan debt. She's got the fiance, right? And she's nervous, right? Because she ain't told the fiance about the $100,000 in student loan debt, right? But, she walking down this aisle. She's like, I'm going to just say it later. I'm sure nobody else knows anybody like that, right? And she's okay with me sharing this because it's telling a story. But she's got this student loan debt, wants to get married, but is afraid to tell the spouse, the soon-to-be spouse, that she has this student loan debt. And so what we're going to do, I said, listen, one, you need to be honest. Two, there's term life insurance. If something happened to you and you two are married, do you know what can happen to that student loan debt and how that will affect your spouse? But if you get a term policy, this is where the strategy comes in, just to cover the student loan debt. If something did happen to you paying that thing off, you won't be hit by the taxes because now it's income. Okay. So it depends. You can use term life insurance for so many things. If you don't have the money right now, because insurance does cost. You can go the term route, but go the term route with the convertible term. And that's what I put my people in, so that if they needed to, they can convert that term policy into what you're calling whole life, but what I call permanent. So there's term insurance and then there's permanent insurance. Permanent insurance allows you to get cash accumulation, to grow cash in a policy. Whole life is under the permanent insurance umbrella. Index Universal Life, the IULs, under the permanent insurance. Variable life insurance under the permanent insurance, right? And those are the insurances that the other people use, and this is what they're using to grow their cash accumulation to do something else. So term life is good. Term life with living benefits is key. If you are single, if you are young, this is what we have to look forward to. You got to understand at some point you're going to get older. And I don't know if anyone has thought about their health or paid attention to the health of America right now. But there's an opportunity in life where you just might get a little something. And if you can't work anymore, for those who are active workers, if you can't work anymore, where is your money coming from? That term life insurance policy that Qiana Davis will put you in, right? Because it's got living benefits. Okay. So you wanna have term life. You can have whole life, you can have an IUL, you can have all these things, but there's nothing wrong with term life as long as you use it for what you need to use it for. And this is where it's important for you to talk to a professional, because they're going to look at your entire financial packet, who you are as a person.
Right. And don't just be out there hitting a Gerber policy because the commercial came on. You have to know what you need.
You have to know what you need. And you don't typically know what you need unless somebody is talking to you. Even the online questionnaires don't dive into your real lifestyle.
The nuances of what you specifically have going on. Because, I have always... I think last episode I was saying that when I looked at those Social Security statements that would come in, like I have had a job every calendar year since I was 14 years old. So I feel like I have always had access in one way or another, at least as an adult, to life insurance through employer plans. So, you work for a job, you get access to basic insurance, which is usually, 3 or 4 times your salary. And then you get the option to opt in to supplemental, where you can, 4X it or 5X it, even 6 or 7 if you want to, as long as you pay the per paycheck deductions. So I have never shopped for my own insurance policy because I've always had insurance through my employer. However, there was an instance where I was laid off, and it was about 8 months until I found a new job, even though I was kind of like doing contract work, but I didn't have benefits. And I got caught in that loop of portability, EOI, all evidence of insurability, statement of health, where now you're trying to get on with the insurance company.
Right.
So I feel like you answered this for me, but I think I know what your answer is going to be. Is there some value, even if you have insurance and supplemental insurance through your employer, is there some value to getting an external, non-employer connected life insurance policy?
Absolutely.
I knew you was going to say
You
that.
know, you got to have it, okay? You must have it. So it's wonderful where, we have those benefits from our jobs where they're offering you. And, if it's not tons and tons of money, I say, yes, get it, right? But the moment you become inactive or leave without pay or something happens and you no longer have that job, listen, you got your backup plan, okay?
Right.
So it's really key to have both. Because I've seen it when somebody has insurance at work and something happens, right? No one died, by the way. We ain't talking them. No one's passed away. But they no longer have it. And now there's a serious health condition going on. Now they are deemed as uninsurable, and now they're leave without pay or inactive. And so now they have nothing. So what happens to you? What happens to your family? So both. We got to get used to both and.
Yeah.
In the world of insurance.
Yes. And I think what I got just out of this question for me personally, my daughter is an adult, good and grown, 25 plus.
Yes.
So I don't have any other minor children. I'm not a homeowner. And so I feel like I don't have anybody financially dependent on me. So really all y'all need is some cremation money, some flowers, and we'll be good. And I'm like, I don't need to buy into a whole policy for that. But you do ideally want to be able to leave something for people to have, to grow, to build. So even if you're single and you don't have minor children and you aren't married and you don't own a home, I had to challenge myself to think a little bit beyond just me.
Absolutely. Single, and I have a lot of friends, same boat, right? Either the children are grown adult children, young adult children, or they don't have any children at all, or they are single. One thing about insurance, again, with living benefits, is this: long-term care, nursing home care, assisted living. We are all, whether we want to believe it or not, at some point, right, our days are numbered here on earth.
Yes.
Okay. And so when we understand that, it's not so much that you need the life insurance for burial or even to pass down to generations. But if you get sick, who's paying? Well, don't use your money that you're saving. Use the insurance's money, because your money needs to continue to grow.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
So we got to look at our money very differently. That's what we have to do. It's the same with a cell phone. I always use a cell phone. Most of the time, people put insurance on their cell phones just in case. So if we got just in case insurance on the phone, just in case insurance on the car, why we don't have no just in case insurance on us?
Yes.
Right? My parents are baby boomers in their 70s, doing all right. However, if I want to move them into their own spot, it's going to cost them. And here in San Francisco Bay Area, they're talking $9,000, $10,000.
I know it.
So where does that money come from?
It's a lot to think about.
It is a lot to think about. And what it does is, what it should do is make us all get very serious about our money instead of living in the day. And it's okay to bless yourself on today. But at the same time, we got to plan for tomorrow.
Yes.
Right? And so we need to make sure that we are properly protected. Again, your car has insurance. The phones have insurance, right? a lot of things have insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we're getting older, we need to be thinking about those things. Who's going to come in and help us when we get older? Do you want to be in a nursing home, or do you want to be relaxed at your house as you get older and somebody coming in to see you? Where does that come from?
Not out of nowhere. I'll tell you that.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so y'all heard it. If you have insurance through your employer, you need external as well.
Must have it.
Must have it.
Both and.
Both and. Okay, so, we talked about insurance, but one of the things you and I have in common is our love for lots of people's favorite financial expert, Susie Orman.
Love it.
If y'all don't know Susie, Suze. If you don't know Susie, I think she's like coined the term America's financial expert, but she is a financial expert who for many years had a show on CNBC, Saturday nights, the Susie Orman Show. That was must-see TV for me.
Yes.
She has so many books, and she has what I think probably is her best product to date, which is like this will and trust kit that essentially walks you through creating these pertinent financial documents. But there's 4 specifically that she has really based the kit around. And I want us to talk through them, because before I sat down and started watching her show and reading her books and seeing her promote this on QVC is where I saw her, where I purchased it from. Shout out to QVC. Y'all know I love them. But I thought it was so informative to understand the difference between these documents and why you need them all. Because customarily, we all think about a will. And like, a will is great if you die. But what if you didn't die, but you still have needs? And I think one of the major situations we saw with that was COVID, right? Well,
definitely.
You're ill, you're incapacitated, you can't make any decisions. Who's going to write the check for your rent? Whether you have the money or not, somebody has to be able to write the check. Somebody has to be able to get into the account to pay the healthcare facility where you are. Somebody needs to be administering over your children if you have minor children while you are intubated. All those things that came up. So I'm going to get into this. I'll call off what these 4 documents are, and then I want you to walk us through the differences.
All right.
Right? So it's the will.
Okay.
I think we all know that one. A living revocable trust, a financial power of attorney, and a durable power of attorney for health care. So I have all 4 of these documents.
Okay.
I need to update them. Things in my life have changed.
Things.
We have new family members. I had a granddaughter recently.
Congratulations.
Yes. And she just turned a year old. So like, I need to refresh my documents because life has moved and grown since I originally did them. But walk us through what these things are and why people should have each of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great question. And again, as we get older, right, we got to get things in order.
Yes.
And so what we do know about a will, right, ideally, and for she's like, she's not an estate planner. Okay, I'm not an estate planner, but here's what I do know. Okay, what I do know is that a will is great when it's time for you to write things down and say what you need to say. However, there's this lovely land, not even lovely land. There's a land called probate.
Ooh.
Courts, lawyers. So, this is the issue with the will, and this is where trusts do come in because certain things avoid probate, but a will have you in probate because your cousin's cousin from I don't know where has found out that you left them something as far as they're concerned. And so these are the things that we need to pay very close attention to.
And I'm sorry, just if you can explain what probate is.
Absolutely. Probate ideally, I'll sum it up for y'all real quick, is when someone can contest whatever it is that you have left and say that it is theirs. And so what probate is a process where we're going into court because people don't have things in order, right? I know we've known about a couple of celebrities who have had the same. And so the court then needs to determine who gets what. And so typically the lawyers, they make out really good in this process while you all are sitting and waiting and grieving. And so probate is a court process where they're going to decide, the law will go ahead and decide who is going to get what.
Okay.
And it's a process, right? We know that Prince died without a will, okay? And we know that it took 6 years.
Shocking.
Right? To settle in court just so that the half-siblings and the business partners could figure out what part was theirs. So we have to do something a little more.
Yeah.
You know, you really do. Like I said, wills are great for just instructions on what it is that you need. But when you've got those assets sitting there, you want to make sure that you have a trust. Okay. Yes. And an irrevocable trust, meaning that these are my directions. This is what I want to have happen. And no one and nothing can come up against this thing. And you do, as you were saying earlier, these things need to be reviewed, dare I say, on an annual basis.
Oh,
Same
that
with,
frequently, huh?
absolutely. You know why? Because life changes.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, life events, get married, grandbabies, anything can happen. You know, and even with your insurance, you may have a primary beneficiary, but you know what? If that's not that person anymore, did you change it?
Yeah.
How about contingents? Do you have any contingents? If something happens to the primary, then what happens to the money? Then what happens to whatever it is that you're leaving?
Who's the executor of all those things?
Who is that? So you do want to revisit those things on an annual basis. We get checkups, right? Or we're supposed to, right? By the doctor, right? You take your car in every now and again, I want to say, for an annual
oil change,
tune up, right? Maintenance. We should be doing the same thing with our finances and making it part of a regular thing.
Okay. So living revocable trust. Keyword living, well, first word living would indicate this is something that can be in effect if you are still alive and perhaps incapacitated.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. And, you know, speaking of, you know, health directives and advanced care planning,
yes,
which is really important. Now, I'm glad you actually touched on that, because a lot of people don't think about what happens if I'm incapacitated. And this is where I think of finances as a whole person care, where, you know, who is that person for you? And sometimes people don't know right off the top of their head. But it's so important that if you don't have someone close to you or in your family or a friend, that you do get someone set to say what exactly is supposed to happen. You need to be able to do that. And they have tons of, as you're saying with Susie, she's got some estate planners. They have a lot of little things. I have a quick little checklist of who you want to choose for that. And then you want to revisit it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with you revisiting it. You wanna do that. Stay. You know, who's the executor? Do you have guardians for your minor children? And if so, who is that person? These things don't bypass the probate process completely, but we got to get that trust set up. Gotta get it.
Got it. And I had the information to set that up prior to a couple of years back having some surgeries. And I was so glad that I had the presence of mind to do that, because anything can happen.
Yes.
You just don't know. So I was glad to have that. I think the other one that I want to just drill down on a little bit is the financial power of attorney, because if you're ill, even if you're not in a coma, right? But if you're sick and you're trying to recover, you don't have the wherewithal, or you might not have the wherewithal to be digging and going and negotiating and talking with and making arrangements. So talk about the importance of having someone you trust designated as a financial power of attorney.
You definitely want to always have that in place. Now, I know a lot of people are like, well, how am I supposed to do that? And this is where the estate planning is key to what it is that you need to do. So you need to have that person in place to hand out or to deliver what the wishes are. It's a key part to your estate planning. You know, it protects you if you are incapacitated. It skips over that whole probate process. And they will even give you enough information to help you to minimize when taxes, here we go with taxes again, can come into play, right? Because y'all know these United States, you know, we function on taxes.
They come for their money.
Right? This is what we do. But making sure that you have the grantor, the trustee, you know, understanding who the beneficiaries are so that you will have control and they can actually lead you through that process. So you must have, this is just part of your financial tool belt. This is part of your blueprint as you're growing as a person and making sure that you're taking care of those things sooner rather than later. So the living trust package is key. It should have a trust agreement. right? It should pour over into the will if you want to have one set up. Power of attorney, you got to have it. Advanced healthcare directives, they got toolkits for this. So this isn't something that's really difficult. Your HIPAA, regulations and agreements are in these things, right? And then you're assigning. And then, of course, you have guardianship and conservatorship.
Yes.
In process. Pardon me, y'all. You need to have that. And all these things are key. And that's the beauty of life insurance, again, right, where it's a partner with the estate planning side. So it can provide the instant ideal estate planning. It provides liquid money, right, our liquid finances, so that we have something in place. And that also skips over this probate process. So it's really key. As I'm working with my clients, that I have an estate planner alongside with me. We partner together so that the foundation is set.
Have it in order.
You got to have it in order. Because can you imagine what that feels like? And only because I've been on the other side. When these things aren't in order and something's going on with your loved one, and you literally mentally cannot think, and now somebody is asking you to make some decisions. So if you love your loved ones or whomever, put something in place. Let them not have that weight and stress on them.
Yeah.
Let you be the responsible one.
Make it as easy as possible.
Absolutely.
Especially if, and correct me if I'm wrong, but especially if you're single, because if you're married, legally, a lot of those determinations will automatically go to your spouse. So I'm not saying you don't still have to be diligent if you're married, but you have an automatic fail-safe. But if you're single, there's not an automatic. It's not going to automatically go to your kids, even if they're adults. It's not going to automatically go to your parents. So you have to be even more on top of designating who these people are going to be, that essentially are going to be speaking on behalf of your life, on behalf of your money, on behalf of your assets, if and when you can. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I've had single people say, well, you know what? I don't want to leave anything to anybody. I just want, they also have people who leave things to charity, right? So there's also the charity trust that you can leave finances to if you want to.
Right.
But you got to have something. Definitely, if you're single, you need to have somebody standing side by side with you to say what your wishes are. Don't leave it up to somebody else to try to figure out. Set it up. Why? Because we can.
Because we can.
Because we can.
Yes.
Right? You like to tell people what to do while you're here, Lord, right? And you can tell them what to do, right? If you're incapacitated, set it up because we can. We've got access.
Yes. I love that. Control on the front, control the back end.
Just trying to tell you.
Got it. Okay. Well, look, I'm going to take us down a different lane.
Okay.
I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Okay.
And some of our questions we got from the listenership were along these lines as well. So I'll put this question out and we'll get to the listener questions after. But home ownership used to be like an assumed asset, right? Because if I own a home, I'm building wealth. But given, the changes in societal roles, people aren't marrying. Maybe they're marrying later in life. People aren't having children. They're working where their work involves a lot of travel. So given the changes in societal roles and family structure, what do you think home ownership now represents? Now, before you answer, I'm going to tell you, as a single gal without minor children, particularly in the Bay Area. So the Bay is my third place. I'm from New York originally. Right. I lived in Atlanta for a little over a decade. Okay. I've been in the Bay Area now for almost a decade. Something tells me, even though I'm not looking to move right now, that the Bay Area is not going to be my last stop. Right. I'm not opposed to picking up, packing up, and moving to other places, up to and including abroad. That's awesome. I feel like that transitory nature that's still within me. I'm like, I don't want to, number one, I don't want to purchase a home because I don't want to be tasked with either selling it and hoping you turn a profit, renting it and hoping your renter don't fall down the stairs or tear your place up, right? Or needing to leave under some timed arrangement and then still being responsible to pay the mortgage on it until you can get one of those other situations in place. And also, as we all know, the housing market in the Bay Area is just completely so sky high. And so I feel like with the way I live and what I can, feel like I want the next 10 to 15 years of my life to look like, I have no business purchasing a home. And I have my group of friends that's like, pack light. If you know you're not going to stay or put down certain kind of roots, don't be putting down certain kind of roots. And then I have my friends who are like, if you paying rent, you just throwing money out the window, which I don't necessarily agree with, because I don't believe it's an apples to apples comparison with rent or mortgage. So I would love to hear, and I'm sure other people too, would love to hear your take on this.
Absolutely. So I understand what you're saying in regards. Home ownership is looking very different right now.
Ain't it though? It is.
Once upon a time, it was like, this is the thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people, you are not alone, are feeling that way with regards to home ownership. When I think of home ownership, the first thing, and when I meet with people, we set financial goals. And so a lot of times that is the goal, to own the home. And I said, well, when you own this home, what are you going to do with it? What's the purpose of owning the home? Is the home meant to be turned into an income stream later?
Okay.
Or is the home just something that you just want to have because that's just what you want to have?
Right.
But a lot of people are starting to feel the same way. Like, I don't need to purchase a home. I just simply need to rent, because with home ownership comes a lot of different things.
I know that's right. That's why it's not, if you could pay rent, you could pay mortgage.
And this is where a lot of people get stuck, and they're like, you know what, I wish I didn't, because I have those clients too, right? I wish I never even bought this house. This house ain't doing nothing but taking
my money.
Taking my money. It is one of the largest investments that you will make. But here's the thing. What people are starting to do is rent, and there is nothing wrong with that. And what they're also doing with their discretionary funds, because they are renting and they're not paying for all these things that come with the home, is that what I say to them is, are we parking this money over here so that it can make money? That is, to me, the big difference. It is okay to rent. There is nothing wrong with renting. Finances, personal finances, there is never a one size fits all.
Okay.
Never. You are okay with renting.
Y'all stop making people feel bad who just want to be long-term renters.
Some people want to be long-term renters, and much like you're saying for yourself, because I know that I'm going to be packing up and doing things. I'm moving around. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm just staying here and this is where I'm staying and I want to purchase a house. There's nothing wrong with that either. But be ready for what comes with it. But there's nothing wrong with renting. I have work in Marin County, so get a chance to see two different lifestyles.
Oh, yeah. It's nice over there.
Yes, it is.
You know, my first time going to Marin, and I drove over that bridge, and the first thing I saw was the prison. And I was like, damn, even the prison looks...
No,
I'm not making a joke, but I'm just like, it was so picturesque. And I'm like, boy, this is Marin, all right. Y'all make jail look good.
Oh, Lord have mercy. I got some people like, nah.
Like,
they just look like they're coming off that bridge.
Right.
But what I've noticed, even for those that live in Marin, they don't believe in purchasing homes, because it is so costly. And so there's something about quality of life is what I've learned in Marin County from San Francisco. But I see quality of life. And so what they're saying is that home ownership is not the thing that makes me who I am. It doesn't say anything about what I have. It doesn't make me successful just to own a home. I can be a renter and actually have more money than the homeowner.
Word up. I know that's correct. I don't know if I'll ever buy. I don't know. Maybe even if I did get married one day, I just don't know.
It's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody.
And it's okay.
I don't want to pay no HOA. Well, you don't have, I don't want to pay no HOA. I don't want to be involved with property taxes. If something breaks, I want to pick up my phone and say, excuse me, can you get here within the next 48 hours? I don't want to be involved in the revamping and revitalizing, and maybe one day I'll change my mind, but for right now I'm like, get somebody else to do it.
Right, because you also see, I know for sure, I've seen people, they purchase the big home, and then kids grow up and they go away, or maybe there are no kids, but then all of a sudden it's like, this is too much for me, and as I get older, I just need something I can control.
Right.
So it's not for everybody. So we're not going to get mad at the renters. There's nothing wrong with you renting. And for those who own property, guess what? You love the renters, don't you? Yes, you do. Okay, we can all coexist.
Yeah, my shout out to my landlord, Brian. He probably the best renter he ever had. He was here locally maybe about a year after I was living in my place, and I'm like, well, Brian, you should stop by and see the place. And he just was so happy to see that it was in good hands and in good shape. So you get a good renter.
You get a good renter.
Hold on to him.
Absolutely. So we're gonna shout out to all of those who want to rent, and we shout out to all those who want to purchase. Right, but there's no judgment.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
There's room at the table for all of us.
That's correct. Okay, so let's get into the listener questions. So this first question is, why are we all, and some of this we just talked about, so I'll ask the part we didn't. Why are we all so undereducated about wealth and finance? Why do so many people in finance only talk about home ownership when renting has its benefits too?
Because now this is the Qiana Davis version.
Okay.
I believe it's done on purpose. I really do. We really should have personal finance in school. And so I know a lot of different states are starting to implement this. But personal finance should be taught earlier on, because that is what helps you to understand sooner rather than later. It helps you to also get a proper foundation on what it is that you need in order to build wealth. It also should show you some different strategies and options. What do I leverage to get that thing that I need? I don't know why, but I do know why. I feel like it's part of the plan, right? We all have heard about the have and the have not. Resources. That's one thing I have learned as I got older and watching my mother about access to resources. Certain people have access to resources. I've seen people in Marin County with their families, and so they have access to different resources, and so they're teaching their children very young that when you get your first paycheck, we're not just buying you school clothes, but we're purchasing assets, we're purchasing stocks, we're going to get your brokerage accounts set up. And so if you don't grow up with that, you don't know. You only know what you know, right? I've been in finance and know how to make other people money and do operational accounting and project constructions and all that. But when it came down to my personal finance, and that's how I got here, something was wrong. Something was missing. And what was missing is that nobody came to make me understand, not just talk to me and read to me, but actually show me how to implement better strategies in regards to my money so that I can stop feeling stuck. It's not taught in school, and it should be taught in school.
It should be.
I remember in school, I don't know how old you are. Okay, I'm definitely Generation X. Okay, so I'm in the 70s, but
Me too, I'm right there with you.
Okay, so we learned how to write a check in school. We had fake money, right, that we was trying to exchange, right? All these things, right? And so my children are in their 20s. They had none of that.
No.
Even scarier. So that's why I literally think that this is part of a plan. I know this probably sounds crazy, but I think it's done on purpose to keep us in the
dark.
Right, exactly. Keeps you in a different state.
Eesh.
But that's okay, because we busting through now. We in the information stage.
Kaboom, guess who stepped in
Got
the
my
room?
cape on. Who want to learn about how money works? Come on and talk to me.
Okay, here's the next question.
Okay.
What is the difference between rich and wealthy?
Now, see, here, I'm a both and kind of a person, right? Okay. Rich, you've got the money, right? And, you can be rich short term. To me, it's like more of a short term versus the long term. What you want to do is play the long term money game. Okay. However, when I think of rich, I do think of money immediately, short term. And when I think of wealth, I think of long term, legacy, generational, passing on through generations, building. I'm able to give back. And I say all this to say about money, but I also feel the same about health.
Okay.
You can be rich in health.
Yes.
You can be wealthy in your health, and you need to be. But that's how I tend to think about being rich. So yeah, you're rich, but how long is the money going to last? I can make $200,000 a year, right? But if I'm spending $199,000 a year, what do I have? You can make $80,000 a year, but if you keeping $40,000 a year versus the 200, what do we have?
Yeah.
So it's just about, for me, how long?
Yeah. How long can you hold out?
How long can you hold out? Wealthy? Hey, you got options. Okay.
I remember hearing someone ask a question. How many checks could you miss before you were on the street? And I was like, damn. And I had to come up with a number. Now, thankfully, I have grown in my life. There's definitely a period in my life I was living check to check. The answer would be 0. And I have a buffer, but we weren't in the double digits. I'll tell you that much. I couldn't miss 10.
Qiana Davis, most definitely. And my husband was sitting next to me. He was like, nope. That's what he was saying. Right? We cannot. I've had a question. If you sold everything that you owned, how long would you be able to live on it?
Oh, I'd probably be able to live for a minute. I might. Everything?
Everything.
Yeah, I could probably liquidate some things and have a little bit of money, but it's like, do you want to have to do that?
Do you want to? No.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, that's a good one.
Okay.
Paycheck to paycheck is real.
It is. I've been there.
People are living paycheck to paycheck. And because they live paycheck to paycheck, they feel like they can't save.
Right. And I don't know. I feel like there's some legitimacy to that. People's situations are so nuanced, but doing whatever you can to give yourself a little bit of slack is key.
You got to give yourself some slack. And I always tell people with savings, of course the dollar amount's great, but saving really is a habit. It's a habit of saving. So if you don't have a lot of money to save, get into the habit of savings, putting something to the side.
Yeah.
Right? And just keep putting that something to the side. It's a discipline. It's a discipline.
I'm working on my discipline. That's a goal for me. I'm so many areas of my life. I am not disciplined. I am a YOLO. I am a flying by the seat of my pants. I'm like at spontaneity. I like to move around, and I'm like, you need some discipline. I don't journal. Like people who go to bed and wake up at the same time. I'm like, who wants to do that? People who meal plan. I'm like, you know what you're going to eat every night for the next 5 nights. It's like all the things that all tie back to, gosh, you need some discipline. So I'm working on that. Okay, here's the last listener question.
Okay.
My boyfriend and I moved in together. I have a better job than he does, and so I enrolled him in my benefits as a domestic partner, which caused me to have imputed income. Would it have been better for me to just let him apply for his own employer's medical insurance?
Okay, now, did the person say the boyfriend is working?
Yes.
But boyfriend is not on his own benefits because?
She's saying she had the better job.
She just had the better job, has the better benefits.
Probably so.
Well.
Not well. You know where we're going if we start with well.
As I look off into the corner. Well. There's this answer because it depends. So now I got all kinds of questions.
Child.
But what I will say is this. If you're going to use your health benefits because it's better for your boyfriend because you love and care about this person, and now you've got the imputed income, and it makes sense to you, then okay. But if you know, I almost want to say now as boyfriend, we must be about to get together. Like is this a solid?
I don't know.
Again, it was never one size fits all, but you are bearing the brunt of what this is, and it must be some real good health insurance. It's got to be really good.
It must be some real good a lot of things to be in this situation.
So I tend to I try to see both sides.
Okay.
But and this is some imputed income that you are
and tell people who may not know what imputed income is.
And I'll just say income, period. So what I think about with imputed income is taxes immediately, right? Because now you got to pay taxes, and this is why I say you really got to love this person. You really got to actually really care about this person in order for this to happen. Other than that, boyfriend needs to get on his own health insurance. Because why are you taking the hit? Why? Is it just that the insurance must be horrible? But we love each other a lot in order for that to happen. So is it something that I suggest you continue to do? I don't suggest you take money out of your pocket on purpose if it's really not worth it. I really don't. So if it was my daughter saying, Mom, I would probably say, no, baby.
It would be a don't do it.
It would get a stop. I feel bad because I don't know their full situation, but imputed income. Any income here in these United States is a taxable situation. This is why wealthy people strategize around their money. This is exactly why. If you don't have to pay taxes, and I'm not saying don't pay taxes because that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is we want to strategize. If you don't have to give your money to taxes, I mean, how much imputed income, how much are we talking about here? Could you have used that money to build your emergency fund? Could you have used that money to build another stream of income? Could you have used that money to serve you later on in life? Not for health benefits. Now, if he's sick, okay, let's say, okay, I'm trying to make it right. I'm that person. I'm that person in the relationship. I'm trying to smooth it over. But I would say no.
Okay.
Why not? Why can't the person get their own insurance unless you all are both trying to build?
All right, then.
I don't know. I don't think I answered that way.
I think you did. I feel like I was real clear on the messaging.
Okay.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't do it if you don't have to do it.
You don't have to.
You better love them real big.
And he got to love you.
Y'all about to be building something together for you to take this on like this.
One to grow on. Okay, so wrap us up with your top 3 personal finance tips.
All right, my top 3 personal finance tips. I'm going to say the B word.
Okay. Oh,
all right,
God.
Here we go.
I'm going to take this one from me, y'all.
We got a budget, y'all. It doesn't have to be some long, drawn-out thing, but we have to create money maps. I create money maps for people all the time. You got to know where your money is going. So that's my tip number 1. Okay. And tip number 2, you can't just have one way of bringing in income. I think the pandemic showed us that. When somebody decided that you were all of a sudden non-essential. Right? We've got to have multiple streams of income or working on multiple streams of income. My third one, I already got 10 in my mind, but I'm going to come up with 3. Number three. Oh, can I do 4?
You can do 4.
I'm that person, huh?
If y'all want the mother 6, you got to pay her. But you can do those 4.
All right. Compound interest when it works for you. Okay. We do know, right? Compound interest most definitely works on credit cards.
Yes.
Can't seem to get out of it. Same with student loans, right? Compound interest when it works for you. Take a look at your accounts. That's what I do with people. Let's see what kind of accounts, what's going on. Is the money making money? Right? Not you making money. Is the money making money? My 4th, this is just an add-on.
Okay.
Tax strategy.
All right. That's a good add-on.
Gotta have it. You gotta have some tax strategy.
Okay. Don't just open up TurboTax and answer the questions and hit submit.
No, not at all. Because you don't know all of your options. See, we only know what we know. And I was a TurboTax girl myself, right? Just let me go ahead and get this because I don't have a bunch of stuff.
That's how I feel.
Right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and do this. And then I'm going to save money.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. It all made sense until I sat with a tax person.
Look at that. I stand corrected.
And then they were just asking me all these questions. And then they started providing me options. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you an entrepreneur? Why aren't you doing this, Qiana? Why do you have money going over there, Qiana? What is it with you and pre-tax, deferred tax, delaying your tax so you can pay it later? Qiana, is taxes going up or down? What are you doing? I'm like, TurboTax ain't said nothing like that. Let me come talk to you. So shout out to all the tax professionals, right? And definitely the ones I work with. I love them to pieces. You got to have a tax strategist with you, period.
Okay. That's one to grow on for me, for sure. I was a subscriber to, you don't own a home, you were running a business, So you don't need to do more than go on TurboTax and do what you do. But yes, I received that.
All right.
Okay.
I was like you.
Yes. Look,
I did the same thing.
she has seen the light.
I did.
I will as well.
Yes, you will.
Yes. Well, listen, tell people where they can find you and more information about what you do and the services you provide.
Absolutely. So you can find me at IamYourFinancialConnector.com. That is my webpage.
I like that.
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram, Currency Key. That's QQI. Know you, y'all. You can find me there as well. Qiana Davis. I'm on Facebook as well. But I'm definitely available to people who have questions. I have a number where you can text me and I'll provide that to you.
Okay.
It's just important that we understand how money works. It's important that you have proper insurances. It's important that you understand that life is going to get expensive, whether you want to know it or not. So October, we know, is Financial Planning Awareness Month. And so what we're saying during that month is this: you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. So you can find me on my website. You can definitely find me on social media. You can definitely reach out to me. My email address, and I'll give it to you. It is Q, as in Queen, Davis, Davis, at globalfinancialcoaches.com. You can email me there. I would love to hear from you and provide you with other options. Know your options. You have to.
This has been great.
Absolutely. I wish we had food on the table.
I mean, right?
Because we got to make this part of normal conversation.
Yes.
Because that's what the wealthy do.
I'm getting ideas around how we can have this conversation over food, because y'all know how I like to do it.
Yes.
But this has been great. Thank you so much for coming. I will post all of your contact information with the show notes. If you want to keep up with me between episodes, you can find me at Kahja versus Kahja. That's KAHJA_VS_KAHJA. Or if you want to follow my food content around the Bay Area, you can follow me at Hey K in the Bay. This was this week's episode of the As Told by podcast. See y'all on the next one. Peace.